rationalizing what information is coming from what kind of people and how that really affects me and what's true and what's not and what's true to me. So I think that the real root of it all is knowing who you are and what you stand for and also putting in the right amount of effort so that nothing anyone says could really hurt you, because you know you've done everything you can.
Welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness podcast. We have Danica Patrick in the house. Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited about this and your new book. Pretty intense. You seem like you're pretty intense.
Do I? Like, what's your first impression when you met me?
When I met you, pretty intense.
Oh, good.
Yeah, focused.
Good.
Like, came in and focused, ready to go.
Good. Well, yeah. I've been described similarly by many people, so that's good. I like that it's authentic.
Very authentic, yes. Now,
slight play on words,
exactly.
But
Pretty and intense, yes. Now, my friend introduced me to you. He made the connection to your publicist for team, Dan Chabelle, and you guys did an interview you may not remember. It just happened, I think, recently, and he's interviewed over 1,000 major influencers, right? Billionaires, authors, you name it, celebrities. And he said, "This is my top 5 most interesting interview."
I'm gonna have to go back and see which one it was now, Dan
Chabelle, and he doesn't send me a lot of people to interview, but he was like, "You have to interview her."
Lucky me.
So I said, "Okay, I'll check it out." I want to share some things we have in common from the research I did.
Okay.
Both professional athletes.
Yeah.
Both lived in Illinois.
Oh, yeah. Where did you live?
I lived in a small village in Illinois. It's called Elsa. It was near Alton, Illinois, near St. Louis, Missouri. So
a little further south, but Illinois.
Exactly. Both do CrossFit.
Yes, up high.
There you go.
Love
there you go.
CrossFit.
I did it
it's the basis for the workout program.
Exactly, yes.
At-home CrossFit.
Absolutely.
Can't give somebody a bar and rack it up with, 135 pounds of it, hit workouts, circuits, stuff like that.
My girlfriend is a huge HIIT workout person, and she always puts me through them.
CrossFit style timing, reps, stuff like that.
Absolutely. We were both, we're the same age and born in the same month.
Oh, are we both March babies?
I'm a March baby. You're actually a year older. I'm March 16, 1983.
Ah, okay.
You're 82,
I'm
right?
82, yeah.
So you're a little...
Yeah, my sister's March 84. Yeah, it's a good month, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Both have NASCAR connections.
I have a lot.
Yes. Well, I don't know anything about NASCAR, but my brother-in-law works with Joe Gibbs' team.
Oh, okay.
He's an engineer.
They're a great team.
And so, anyways, but
he does good work then.
He does good work, yes.
What's his name?
His name is Tim Bruce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's an engineer with the team. We both went to Europe to pursue sports.
That's right.
You were 14 when you left?
16.
Why did I read 14? 16.
Yeah. Come on, let's be realistic here. 16.
16 is still very young to go there.
It is. 16 to 19. I lived there for 3 years.
3 years.
How long were you there?
I was only there for a few weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I went about 4 years ago to Spain to play with a professional handball team. I don't know if you know team handball.
No.
It's an Olympic sport. It's kind of like water polo on a basketball court.
Okay.
2 teams, Anyways. We've both been on Ellen.
Oh, yeah, Ellen. I just used my Ellen coffee cup the other day.
I love that mug.
I love mugs. It's the only thing I collect. I'm such a geek about it.
Really?
Yeah, I collect
What's
coffee
your favorite
cups.
mug? What's the quote say?
Well, Allison's got me some great ones that say, I'm an effing unicorn. Can we swear on this podcast? Can you swear on podcasts?
We'll bleep it out, but yeah.
No, I didn't have to swear. I didn't have to
I'm an effing unicorn?
I'm an effing unicorn. Or I do what I want with a unicorn. Or I have one that is, since I'm from the north, my sister got me a cup that says, "Oofta, you betcha," because my mom's side of the family's from northern Minnesota, Canada.
Yeah.
What else do I have that I really love? I have a lot of coffee cups that I love.
That's great. I love them too. Yeah, and we both like eating paleo.
I love it. It makes me feel good.
Feel very good, right?
Yeah. I've run this. I sort of walk all the food in the book because I wrote and photographed 50 recipes in here, and it's all paleo. But I don't know. I'm dealing with this whole do I go more vegan route or not?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried any of that? I have never gone all the way.
Yeah.
I've only just migrated that way with less meat, more fish, smaller portions. I haven't really gone into, but it's really hard to be vegan paleo. That's really hard.
Christine's
because
vegan.
if you don't do grains or beans, and it cuts down on a heck of a lot of your food. What do you eat? You just eat vegetables and fruit.
That's it.
I mean, that's really probably good for you, but I'm probably lacking something. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not. What have you tried it?
I've never tested it. I can't. I don't have that willpower.
Have you tried it? You've tried.
She's full vegan.
Full vegan, but so you eat grain. I mean, is full vegan gluten-free too? No, it's not.
You can still be extremely unhealthy vegan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Eat all the sugar and gluten and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing the photo. I went through the book and the photo of your transformation from I think 2003.
Oh yeah. When I was an FHM.
Yes.
With me standing in front of the muscle car.
Exactly. There's a pretty amazing.
Well, that was me. That was me doing like 45 minutes on the elliptical at 3 a.m. no matter what what time my flight was or what I had to do that day, and no weights and just like all cardio and eating extremely restrictive, like very little. Yeah. And I probably weighed 95 pounds, but skinny fat. It's skinny fat.
There's no lean muscle.
And like you look at that picture, and without you don't really know my size based on it. The only way you can really create like a look of leanness is to have angles and muscle tone, and the only way you're going to get that is you're going to have to work out. Actually, you're going to have to lift weights, and you're going to have to eat more, and all those things. That so.
When did you start lifting heavier?
It was an IndyCar. It was like the end of my IndyCar days. I had a trainer that would just literally just send me a PDF of a workout of a month of training, and that's when I started going to like 3 to 5 sets of 5 reps and less. Yeah. And I noticed there was no downside to it. I just was getting more muscle tone, and I was like, oh, this is kind of good, actually. Yeah. The problem with lifting weights is, and working out in general, I feel like with most people, is that they start and there's something good that happens at first because you're kind of like getting the blood pumping, you're sweating, you're probably eating better, but you are putting on muscle at the same time, and so there tends to be a yo-yo period, in my experience, where you're gaining some muscle, but you haven't burned the fat off yet, and you're sore, which if you're sore, you're swollen. It's just a fact. It just you are swollen. So there's that yo-yo period of people. They're like, oh my God, it's not working for me. It's like, no, stick it out. Yeah. Do you think I mean, sprinters, weightlifters, all these people, they're not fat.
Right.
So stick with it.
You gotta stick with it. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm curious, what?
Do we have any other things in common? Probably. We'll probably figure more out.
We actually, you follow one of my Instagram pages.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen you in some. I'm gonna be really like an idiot right now, and I'll be like, I walked in, I'm like, oh my God, this all makes so much sense now. I'm like, I recognize you. I'm just terrible with names, so I'm like, oh, yes. I'm so glad I'm here. I mean, I'm glad I'm here anyway.
I think we have a lot of mutual things in common. Yeah. People that we follow, things that we're interested in. I think we have a similar mindset.
Yeah, food, fitness, mind, body. I mean, it's all really important.
And you've gotten more into like spirituality.
Yeah, right? I have. For sure.
That's been more of a recent thing, I guess, in the last few years. For
you, right? For sure. In the last few years. It didn't start off that way. No, it didn't. It was more about. I've always had that part of me. Like I remember when I was younger, I called a psychic when I was 18 and living in England for my birthday, and I got the Linda Goodman Sun Science book about love, compatibility, things like that. And so I've always kind of been interested in that, and but it really hasn't been until the last few years that I've gotten more interested in it. And
you've got a quote from Louise Hay in your book too.
Yeah, I love Louise Hay. Yeah, I mean, I want to believe that the Heal Yourself book, the tiny little pamphlet of Heal Yourself, where like everything that's wrong with you is like a direct. It's basically from your you create it in your mind. And there's also another person that I've watched some videos from. Dolores Cannon is her name. She's dead now, but she's a hypnotherapist and goes into the subconscious, and she talks about how you literally make yourself sick. And she's like, people don't want to hear that because they want to think there's a fix, and they just take something. And just as you can make yourself sick, you can also make yourself better. So I'm not going to lie. If I feel anything coming on, I'm literally like Mantra City and positive thinking, like I am well. Like I pull the Wayne Dyer, I am well, I am healthy, I feel good, I am of perfect health. Like
when did you start doing that?
Only in the last probably 6 months, but I'm not going to lie. It's worked every time.
It's interesting. It's funny you say that. I was raised in a religion called Christian Science.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Actually,
No.
Ellen was raised in the same religion.
Okay.
It's not Scientology, so I have to make that preference.
And it's not Christian. And it's not Christian.
It's Christian religion. Yeah,
okay,
we
it's
studied
Christianity,
the Bible and things like that. But it was actually founded by a woman. And the entire basis of the religion is that you can heal yourself with your mind if you believe. And it's one of the reasons why, one of the challenges of the religion, I'm no longer in it, but I was raised in it, and I didn't have vaccinations. I never had medicine.
You didn't?
Never had medicine growing up because they taught us to heal ourselves with our mind and
amazing.
belief. So when you're saying, like, for 6 months you've been doing this thing, a mantra, I pretty much grew up doing that with this belief in spirituality. You know, it kind of had a bad rep, though, sometimes, because some people would get serious injuries or they would die because they wouldn't go to the hospital.
This reminds me, someone in my neighborhood growing up was of a religion that didn't believe in holidays or medicines at all. I can't remember what the religion was, but it seemed very, very crazy to me young.
It is a little crazy. It is a little crazy. But when you come back to it full circle and you say, well, I actually do believe that I can heal myself or prevent getting sick.
Yeah.
You're witnessing it, right?
Yeah, I am. It's worked every time so far.
There you go.
It's probably been about 3 different times.
The power of the mind.
Where you can feel feel lymph nodes coming on your throat. You can kind of feel it coming into your head, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly how you feel before you get sick. Right. But instead of thinking, I'm getting sick, which then you are, right?
Calling it into your body.
Yeah, you're literally manifesting it. Then I would just say, like, I'm well, I'm fine, I'm perfect health, I'm doing well.
Yeah, and there's so much research and science that's backing the connection of pain in the mind.
So when you say that, it reminds me of I went to church with my sister. I mean, I'm not of any religion. I kind of like them all and don't like them all. I don't believe I don't believe all of any one of them.
Yeah.
But
you take the best from all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They all have good points, and I could go to any religious ceremony and be like, oh, I might learn something today, or I might dismiss it all. I'm not really sure. But we came out of church, and there was a guy that was standing there as my sister was waiting for 2 little girls to come out and from the daycare that they provide, and he is an anesthesiologist, and he was. I was like, I think it's crazy how. This is me telling him. I'm like, how do you put people? You like sedate them, and you don't have to numb anything, and he's like, nope, and he's like, and we don't understand why. He said, we don't really understand why.
Why they don't feel the pain?
Why they don't feel the pain? Why? How can you just make someone go to sleep and then just cut them wide open, and how do they
open up their chest and open heart surgery?
But how do you do that, right? But it's like they don't understand it. So then it leads to the fact that you are literally manifesting the pain with your mind. Because say you have surgery and you wake up and you're like, I had my chest open. Oh, my chest must hurt so bad. Like, you must be imagining some of it to truth. You must be some level.
Absolutely.
I don't know, because it just doesn't make sense how you don't have to numb it, because it must be so painful that you'd have to wake up of some level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think there's more underneath what we can prove with medicine right now and all these other things. There's something else,
Yeah, I think that's where the culture, I feel like the world is starting to wake up to that kind of stuff, the stuff that's unseeable, the metaphysical world.
Why did you start to get into this 6 months ago and
over the last few years, it really stemmed from a trip to Sedona with my girlfriends. Yeah. I mean, it's always been sitting there. It's been resting there, right underneath the surface. And we went and we did a whole vortex tour. We went to a labyrinth. We got crystals. We got psychic readings. And
what opened up for you during that?
It was just kind of like a level of curiosity. There was so much of it that it was there must be wow, I can keep going here. And then you do things like start following people like you or Jason or any of the other people that are into the mind, body, metaphysical, spiritual connection stuff, and there's just so much more. And then you can get into everything from aliens to conspiracy theories, and there's just the you run down any rabbit hole you want, and there's plenty of content. And it's very thought-provoking. So I've always described myself as, even growing up, I've always described myself as a skeptical religious person. I question it all.
Yeah.
I'm like, why and how? And I was telling a story last night even about how Lent comes around and everybody gives up meat on Friday. And I was like, why? So I looked it up, and it had to do with that meat was a luxury. Like lobster was the peasant's food. And I'm like, well, I ain't like that now. So I'm like, I'm going to give up lobster then, I guess, right? If that's what the point is.
Right.
But then I went on to say that I think a lot of times people give things up as a means to an end to a diet program more than an actual spiritual program.
That's true.
So anyway.
Trying to lose weight or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'll give up chocolate.
Exactly. Then I'll eat something else, a substitute I'm missing. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest takeaway you found, I guess, since you started going down that rabbit hole 6 months ago of Sedona?
Positivity. Just overwhelming, more positivity. Just understanding the power of the mind. And maybe you know more about this. I've been meaning to look it up before I started doing some of these interviews I've been doing, because I knew I might go down these holes. But I read something or heard something probably on some YouTube rant that I was going on down the rabbit hole of the subconscious mind not being able to tell the difference between a truth and a lie. Do you know anything about that?
Tell me more.
That's what I know. It's like if the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between a truth and a lie. That would lead you down the path of thinking that I am sick. I'm getting sick. So it is, right? Because if it can't tell the difference between a truth and a lie, it also is like I am well, I am healthy.
I'm confident.
I need to look more into that, because you can't talk in big arenas like this with people listening and not know your stuff. But anyway, it's thought-provoking stuff.
Wow. Did you always have someone training your mindset from an early age when you were competing in Europe? And
No.
How did you start to condition your mind against the intense pressure of competing and then being on a bigger stage and then, just being a female in the sport that you were in, dominated by men? How did you train your mind? I guess you became pretty intense at an early age.
Yeah, I believe I just had to create coping mechanisms in an understanding, rationalizing what information is coming from what kind of people and how that really affects me and what's true and what's not and what's true to me. Yeah. So I think that the real root of it all is knowing who you are and what you stand for and also putting in the right amount of effort so that nothing anyone says could really hurt you, because you know you've done everything you can. I think that probably on a real surface level, like, if you don't try hard enough at something, people could knock you down for it. And if you really don't, then it hurts, because you're like, shoot, you're right,
Yeah.
You're like, in your mind, you're like, yeah, they're right. And you feel bad, right? You feel guilty for yourself and for others. But if you do everything that you possibly can, then you know that then nothing anyone says can really hurt you, because you've done everything you can. What are you going to do, hate yourself for being your best?
Right.
Whatever that is.
Right.
So I think I just learned how to deal with the things that people say by putting in the right amount of effort and knowing who I was and knowing what I wanted. I think the knowing yourself on a much other deeper level is something that's come much later in the recent few years. But
for you,
yeah. But as far as the effort level put into a certain thing that people want to judge really quickly, like your performance or the way you act, things like that. I mean, it's easy to get brought down if you're not doing your best, if you're not putting in the right amount of effort, because you really do feel guilty.
How did you arm yourself against those critiques throughout your entire career, and still, when everyone maybe was trying to pull you down or say something that you're not good enough, or you're this, or you shouldn't be doing this, or you should get out of our all boys club, or whatever it is they would say? How did you arm yourself with that?
Well, I just knew I was capable, so you base it on. And there were times where I totally doubted myself. I would imagine everybody faces that at some point in time, and so there were points in time where I would doubt myself. But then I would I'd pull back and look at the bigger picture and be like, no, I'm here because I did this, this, and this, and I've been around for 20 years, and I'm not here by accident or just out of one good charity case to keep me around. I'm here because of all the things that I've done. So you have to kind of sometimes pull back a little bit to get a little perspective, because it's easy to get knocked down confidence-wise on things that you're doing. But then the things that people say, I mean, most of the time they're from strangers. You probably face this too, of course, on social media. Like,
all the time.
You don't know them, so it's easy to blow them off. But that's a luxurious standpoint that I'm in, because I don't know these people that are talking to me. And what I like to bring up is how hard it must be for kids and people that are working in smaller circles with 50 followers, and they all know them. And so if they say something mean, they might think it might be true. Does they really know them?
Yeah. Over the last 20 years, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome or that you've faced?
getting people to believe in me has always been the hardest, I think. And I believe that everyone struggles with it. Like, you were in sports, like getting people to really believe in you and do everything it takes to be great, whether it comes from an ownership or a team standpoint or teammate standpoint. That I think is always hard, but I think it's a little harder for me.
Do you feel like every year you were fighting that?
Yeah.
Getting people to believe in you, even still today?
Yeah.
Even after the staying power you've had, the results you've had?
Yeah, sure.
Really? Still?
Yeah.
Huh. How do you get people to believe in you?
Communication, relationships, developing them. I think it takes more effort on my part just to earn that trust and earn that belief. But again, I don't think there are some people that you're never going to convince because it's just a cultural divide that's not, you know, there's just separation and segregation within things still, and it's just we're not all one big happy family, and girls aren't in racing and they tend to not do well, so you know, society and culture would say that it's not really a proven thing, so you know, it's easier to just, and also, you know, being a woman in a man's world, I think that you know, there's just generally that whole like lack of feminine, right? To have sympathy and understanding and compassion and respect, because you're like, I'm macho and I have all this testosterone and no girl's gonna beat me doing anything. And what do you have to say to that? Do you agree with that?
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, what do I have to say about that? Or?
Yeah. Like, would you agree that that would have probably affect me?
I think absolutely. Yeah, it would affect you. I mean, I think it'd be challenging I think it'd be challenging for men in that sport to lose to you, who definitely don't have that like emotional ability to communicate or express themselves in a healthier way. I could see like their egos just flaring up and then wanting to attack you to take you down, so they wouldn't look silly to their friends. Like, oh, I lost to a girl or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you got a lot of those attacks, because these guys were like, you shouldn't even be in this sport.
Right.
I can imagine.
Right.
Again, I don't know anything about the sport really, but
No,
that's what I can imagine. If I'm playing basketball against a girl or something.
What are they going to say about me? Oh, just take her out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Generalizing a scenario. But
do you feel like people would attack you on in the races and intentionally try to get you out?
Sure, and then also just make it really difficult. I think that's what I faced most, was just people that, you know, made it really difficult for me to get by. You know, just like put up a huge fight and, you know, fought tooth and nail when there really wasn't any point on lap, you know, 152 of 367. Right. You know what I mean? Like, really, what are we doing here? We're doing is slowing each other down. So, yeah. I'm definitely
ego, huh?
Totally. The ego is powerful for motivation. You can use the ego. The difference is you know, letting the ego rule you will lead you down short-term paths, and it will also lead you to regret, because it wants instant gratification. You know, it wants it right now. And soul truth and soul missions and soul messages are something so much more subtle and patient and kind, and they get overshadowed by ego.
Do you feel like you had a battle with your ego throughout the last 20 years at all, or was there another?
That's a great question. I don't think I've really been asked that before.
You're on the School of Greatness.
Yeah.
This is what this place is for.
Do I think that I've been ruled by? Yeah, of course the ego comes in. I mean, whether it be, you know, what I'm doing, how I'm doing, what I think of myself from a performance standpoint or a look standpoint. Yeah, I mean, the ego comes in for sure.
How do you overcome that? When it starts to flare up and get nasty?
Well, I would say that's one of the most, I have said that recently, that one of the most beneficial things that I've learned is to identify when I'm being led by ego versus soul. That's been really helpful.
And how do you identify
And you almost
that?
laugh at the ego. Like, the ego comes up and you're like, you jerk.
How do you identify
I don't know why
that?
I gave it a guy jerk quality. I don't know how else.
It's a masculine quality, I guess.
It is. Well, it is. The ego is right. Right.
Yeah.
You know way more about this stuff than I do.
Yeah.
So, but it's also motivating. So it's the driving force in things. But you know, you can do it with soul after you've sort of created a goal.
And how do you bring attention to your ego? Do you meditate every day, or you just recognize it when you've been frustrated or angry about something or resentful, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to let it go?
I would say that the journey was through a lot of sort of walking meditations is kind of how it started.
This guided meditations or just walking?
No, walking
quiet?
and nature, nothing like I was on a property that was completely empty and a huge property, and there's trails, and I knew I'd never see anyone, and I would play music and I would just stick it in my pocket, and I don't know, music really helps me too, like East Forest. Have you heard of East Forest or Trevor Hall or
I'm sure
Naco? Or they're just really positive, kind of like, I mean, they're not reggae, but you know, they kind of like are saying positive messaging vibes, and some of them are just instrumental. And so they would really kind of help me get to a good place. And I just don't think it's possible to get out in nature and not feel happy, grateful, small but part of a big thing. Like, it's just a really, really productive space. If you don't have the discipline to sit and meditate or pray or whatever it is that is you're more connected, deeper, then, and it doesn't mean you can't get deep in nature. I'm just saying, like, that's more purposeful, like, and you just want to do something active. Maybe you're a little like me. Like, I want to move. So this feels good. Nature walks, hiking trails, all that is such a great way to just really go within. Do you agree with that?
I 100%. I think nature is the doorway to the heart.
Yeah.
And I can be, when I was watching a thing on grounding, actually, on Facebook the other day. I don't know if you've seen this documentary.
Earthing, basically?
Exactly, earthing.
Yes.
And I was like, man, how many weeks, days, years do I go by without actually having my
feet
bare feet on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Or just like, how many days do I go by being in LA, not like taking a hike or being just in trees and nature?
Putting your feet in the sand, like you're right here.
Exactly. Or even just walking in a forest, even in shoes. How often am I not doing that? Like, I can go weeks and just being on concrete.
Yeah.
And being disconnected to the earth.
Yeah.
So I believe nature. And I've done, over the last 2 years, I've done a week in Hawaii where I didn't take my phone with me. And it was one of the most incredible experiences. It was the first time in 15 years I didn't have my phone on me for one day. Wow. 15 years.
It was so liberating.
It was
odd,
terrifying
but liberating.
To go on a plane without my phone.
What am I going to do?
And
how am I going to get there?
I remember getting to the airport.
Where's my map?
Exactly. I got to the airport and I rented a car beforehand, but I forgot which rental thing it was. So I'm asking all the different ones, the reservation.
Oh my God.
Then I get in the car. I have to stop like a gas station to get directions to where I'm going, like old school.
Wow.
But it was so magical, just not having to check my phone and just laying in the ocean.
I've actually entertained the idea of going somewhere totally away from everything for like a month. I mean, I have that kind of time now, but I never used to, and I'm like, man.
That would be amazing.
I could do it.
Another thing I did.
Disconnect completely.
It'll be a game changer. Another thing I did is I went to India for 2.5 weeks.
Okay, I don't know if I'm brave enough. Is it worth it going? Or is it?
I went to a meditation retreat. Okay. So it's, it was protected.
Hanging out in the ashram and,
It wasn't that intense. It wasn't like a silent retreat either. Okay. So there was people, they were teaching meditation. You were like practicing stuff. But it was being so disconnected from electronics where I was just connecting to my soul and my heart and the mind.
Spirit and
it was unbelievable how much peace I felt in my heart.
Kind of makes you wonder why we're doing all this, doesn't it? They like get those moments where I'm like, what's the point?
Why am I running around? Why am I running everything you're doing?
Yeah, but there are some people like yourself that are incredibly good and can connect with people and get these messages out. And if you don't, who's going to do it? And so I feel that level of responsibility myself too. And that's kind of like the first 5 chapters of the book are on the mind, and it's like literally just scratching the surface on simple things like get out in nature. Your thoughts are really important. Make sure they're good. It's scratching the surface. But what I've heard from everyone is that it's their favorite part of the book.
I like the idea of the mind river. Yeah. It's called the mind river, right? Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
And
neuroplasticity is the bigger word, but
yeah, exactly. Simplify it, yeah.
Let's make it
but you have very simple, practical things that people can do in exercises, which is what we all need.
Yeah, and then there's also parts in there too at the end of each of those chapters that is thought-provoking for you to, because I'm a firm believer in writing down what you want. So every month I get into my little notes app and I write down just every month I'm like anything, right? What I'm grateful for, what I want, how I want it to look. Sometimes it's general, sometimes it's specific. But if I don't write it down, then how is it ever going to happen? And so, I'm a believer in writing things down and really manifesting on more levels than just a passing thought through my mind or I hope so,
You talked about it in there where you got to really write it down, schedule it, and plan to make it happen.
And some people just never ask themselves the question. So they're like, the biggest question, the simplest question is, what would you do if you could do anything in the world? What would your job be if you could make anything in the world? And most people don't have an answer, especially adults.
What would you do now?
What would I do now?
If you could do anything in the world.
I would, I'm living some of them. So I would, I mean, this clothing line is wonderful. I'd love to create with my Warrior clothing line. I'd love there to be some more of a charity element to it. I'd love to develop that. And I mean, like, I have this lofty thought of like some kind of a camp or something, like either once a year or quarterly. I don't know what kind of thing it'd be, but I have so many other interests. So I love cooking. So I'd love to have a cooking show.
I read that about you. Yeah.
I love, I mean, I love wine, which follows along with all that. I love traveling, so I mean...
You're living it all.
Yeah, I'm living it all, yeah. But I answered the question, what would I could do if I could do anything? And
you did that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you pursued it.
Yeah. But people don't ask themselves that question because they get put on this wheel of like, I go to school, I do what I'm told, I go to the bathroom when I can, I, eat whatever's provided for lunch, I, gotta go to college now, and then what do I want to do? I'm not really sure because I haven't really thought about it because I've been too busy at parties and stimulated by, social media and distracted from the real thing, which is what I really want, and instead of what I'm told to want or what's cool or what's in or what pays well, do what you really love to do, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy to figure yourself out, and and there's too much stimulus out there to distract you. So much distraction, and so and it's addictive. Like, I would describe myself as addicted to my phone to some degree. I don't want it, but I want it. You know what I mean? Like, I recognize that I'm somewhat addicted to looking at social media and scrolling through things, but I still don't want to put it down,
Yeah,
so that's why I need like a forced scenario where I'm in another country where my phone doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where you don't take it with you.
But then the problem happens now where they never used to have Wi-Fi, so you could get away for the whole time. But now there's Wi-Fi everywhere, so I'll play my music through the Wi-Fi or something like that. So I'm like, oh, now my messages come in. And
what's the question that you've never been able to answer for yourself?
Tough questions.
Or is there something that's been on your mind, whether it be spirituality or about the body or about relationships or about health or anything in general? It's just the question you haven't been able to answer, that you're constantly seeking.
What is God? Not who, but what.
Do you have an idea yet?
I mean, that's kind of what provoked a lot of the development, is that I kind of thought of that, and instead of a who, which everybody wants to answer who, and I'm like, no, you're not answering the question what. I believe it's the highest level of vibration. There's nothing negative can resonate at this vibrational level. It is pure love, positivity. It is a oneness presence that is eternal. It's God consciousness, Christ consciousness. It's source. It's not really. It's omnipresent. It's not a dude on a throne in the clouds. Right. It's so much more than that. It's everywhere all the time. That's why God lives within you and everyone else, because we're all connected. I don't know. How did I do?
I like the answer.
I'm sweating. These are hard questions when I'm like sitting here with somebody like you. I don't know.
I like that answer. I think it's I think that's, in my opinion, I would say that's very accurate on my belief too. Yeah. My challenge is, the reason I started this podcast 5 years ago was because I had so many questions. And I realized that I didn't have any of the answers. And I wanted to bring on people like yourself who had experiences that could shed light on their personal experiences. And I've had so many different spiritual pastors and leaders and people.
I'm looking at you with Tony Robbins right there. Right, I'm like, exactly. You got them all.
And every time I bring on a different spiritual leader, I feel like I get almost a different answer as well. And so in some ways I feel like
love is my religion. That would be a good way to just sort of like encompass it all.
That's how I respond. Yeah. And I don't know if you know who Rob Bell is, but do you know Aaron Rodgers? Just kidding. He's close with Aaron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I met Aaron actually at one of Rob Bell's speeches. He's a spiritual. Okay. You should ask.
Okay.
Aaron.
Maybe he has brought him up.
It's kind of like his confidant. He talks.
Has he spoken at his team or something?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know who you're talking
He's about a mile away. He's been on the show a few times, and he's got great wisdom on all of this. So you should tell Aaron.
This just came up, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
Yeah. You should ask Aaron about Rob Bell.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm constantly in question. I'm constantly questioning, and sometimes I feel more confident because I think I have some answers, and other times I'm like, nothing is true.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got a different opinion or a different belief. And that's the challenge.
And people are persuasive, right? I mean, like, you know, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you go another route and you're like, that makes sense too, you know? And so it's this eternal, like, I have words of the year, so my word of the year is open. So
this year is open.
Yeah, it was truth last year, so that was a big one.
Ooh, was that the first time you had truth?
Yeah. I've only done word of the year for about 5 years, so.
What did you feel you revealed about yourself last year that you hadn't revealed before, either to yourself or to others?
That racing really wasn't my passion.
What? Really?
I know, I've never said that out loud, but here we are in school,
cow.
So yeah. I mean, I love it, I'm good at it,
Right.
but I mean, even my dad said, he's like, I know, he's like, you were good at it and you needed a job. I'm like, all right.
So last year you finally like revealed that to yourself.
Yeah, said it out loud.
Right.
Actually, I said it a couple of years early to one person, and then a few things unraveled, and you know.
Wow.
Yeah. I love racing. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just not what I do for fun. And if I don't do it for fun, is it really my passion? Mm-hmm. Is it?
It's a job.
It's the job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. I've done it for.
Still enjoyed it.
This is going to be year number 27. So
but
clearly I haven't hated it.
Right. That's
there
also
are some days I do,
too.
but that's a job. So, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to put it down. It's given me everything that I have. It's the only reason why I have a book. It's why I have a clothing line. It's why
wine company.
Yeah, I mean, there's the only reason why any of it's happened. But it also doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed it and it's not facilitated other things in my life to happen and it wasn't meant to happen. I believe it was.
Right.
And, you know, maybe it's a platform to write the mind part of the book. Maybe that's going to help people even more. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, kind of facing that truth and, you know, as things were developing or not developing on the racing front with sponsors or teams or anything, I just really pulled back and just like let agents and people do the work, and I didn't push and I didn't I just kind of let it happen or let it not happen. You know, whatever. I don't know if it's like I let it happen the way it did or I just let it not happen. But I just kind of wanted things to happen organically and fluidly. And if something came through, I was like, it's meant to be. It's meant for me. If it doesn't, then that's also meant for me. So, yeah. But I have so many other. I mean, if anyone knows me, they know I'm not a car girl. I don't barely know how many cylinders I have in my car, and I'm not a car girl. And I don't go to races for fun. I like to go to crystal shops, and I like to go to yoga retreats. Okay, I haven't done a yoga retreat, but I want to. But, you know, I love to go to places like that and very, like, spiritually connected places, and that's what's fun to me. So, and I love cooking, and I love wine, I love food, I love all that stuff, and so that's what I do for fun. I work out. I enjoy working out. You probably do too, but some people hate it.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's what I do for fun. So I'm getting to address those, and I'm very, very fortunate that I was given a platform that's letting me do it in a big way.
Mm-hmm. Wow, truth.
Wonder what open will bring me.
I know. Tell me about your mindset, how you would condition yourself before either practice or big competitions. What's the process of either the night before, day of? How would you condition your mind? Or did you have no ritual? No. You just show up and said, I'm going to do my best and let's go. I
mean, you don't want to be like hungover, you know?
Right.
I mean, that's, I guess, preparing your body, but
you didn't have some type of ritual where you were visualizing?
No, the only thing that I would use some visualization technique was for qualifying. I would visualize the lap, but that's about it. And there's too many scenarios that happen on track that are out of your control and they're unique every time, and you can't plan for it. You know, that's why race car drivers can do it for so long, is because, you know, you're not limited by strength or, you know, your body, or really, you can keep going with it. And you also learn more every year. So essentially you're not really a worse driver from one year to the next, you're better. And it's just really a matter of your equipment and then your motivation.
Wow. So it's almost like you need to clear the mind and just say, I'm open to whatever happens, because at any moment someone could nudge you, or you could fall back or in front. Or
I think that, and this probably happens for a lot of athletes, but I think that we enter a different state of consciousness when we're performing. And there are just things you just don't think of anything.
Right.
You know?
Can't.
You can't. And then there's the little, I think you enter a different state of consciousness, and then I think athletes have the ability to go to another level for a little bit of time, but not all the time.
Mm-hmm. Because how long is a race typically? I mean, the longer race can be hours, right?
3 to 4 hours is pretty normal.
It seems like a long time sitting in a car.
Yeah, but I didn't start out doing 3 to 4 hour races.
Right.
I started off with 10 minutes in a
Go-karts.
go-kart.
Yeah.
And then you go
3 to 4 hours is a long time.
Yeah. 5
It's
hours
endurance.
is the longest I think I've been in the car.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. I'm bored by then. No.
You probably are though, right?
Sometimes.
Just lap after lap.
You're holy crap, I'm not even halfway.
You're just trying to draft.
Usually the very first quarter of the race is God, I'm not even halfway.
Really?
And then, maybe even halfway comes, but then the last half tends to go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get in a rhythm.
Wow. What's the greatest moment for you in the last 20 years in terms of racing? Whether it be in the race or after the race, but something around racing in general.
There have been various races that I don't think that one really stands out as being the one, but there's been a handful of races where it's just the car was handling well, I was passing in cars and having a great race. I didn't win the races, but they were really good races for me where you just feel like
you felt in flow.
Yeah, you just were really in flow for sure, and in charge and in control. Yeah.
You're such a massive inspiration for women in sports, right? Or just in the world to be able to go and pursue something they normally wouldn't think is possible. Mm-hmm. What's the message you give for women who maybe aren't as confident in themselves? Or
whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm. How did you have that belief?
Oh, Henry Ford said that.
Of course, it's in your book too.
Yeah,
I saw
that's
that.
my favorite quote because it's true. That's
Yeah.
the power of the mind. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you tell me I can't do that, well, then you won't. I promise you won't.
Yeah.
No, you change your words and I promise you will.
How'd you condition yourself to believe that? And believe in yourself?
Well, I think that there's a certain level of athlete, having to knowing that you have to have confidence, knowing you have to believe that you can do it, knowing how powerful that is. Just because you're going in it's not always head to head, but you're in these duos, these very intense situations where you have to that if you're not confident, you'll be taken advantage of. So just training yourself in that way because you know how important it is. Mm-hmm. And then outside of that, it probably started back in the IndyCar days where, I don't know, I was miserable a lot of the time. And so I would, instead of, being in this crappy cycle of God, I don't want to do this, these interviews suck, or I'm so tired, I'm just car sucks, and this is, what about, why do you do that? And, then you got to shift it. And me and another girl who's still with me, we would meet in the morning to head to practice or my interviews or whatever I had to do, and it was we called it our kittens and rainbows moment, where we go up and be good morning, it's going to be a fantastic day, I have lovely interviews, and just kittens and rainbows, and you'd fake that you were happy in an obnoxious way until you actually did believe it. It really doesn't take very long. I can smile doing it, and it takes seconds or minutes to get into that mind frame where you're oh yeah, it's all good. But you do that all the time, and then you are all good all the time. And so, I'd say that shift of mindset came probably 10 years ago.
Yeah. What would you
Not very good at it every day, but I try.
Sure. And who do you think inspired you the most growing up to believe in yourself?
My dad. Yeah. My dad is incredibly negative at times, but he is also very positive too. Maybe he would describe himself as realistic, but positive. So
yeah.
we lace those together. But he always would tell me that, you can do it. Anytime you get in a car, you show people you can do it. And that's true. Anytime I would get into a new car, have to prove myself, I would. And it was a good reminder of all right, you're right, Dad. Because it's easy to doubt yourself.
Of course. What do you think the greatest lesson is that he taught you? Was it that or something else?
He always told me to have fun. Yeah. I don't think I always have had fun, but it's a good reminder that was supposed to be the point. And Yeah, it's a simple mindset, and but he always told me from a young age, and so.
And what about Mom? Greatest lesson she taught?
Always be a lady. I fail at that one. I'm like, Mom, how can I do that? I can't do that every day, all day. Mm-hmm. No, my mom is really even keel, and she called herself the referee growing up because my dad would get so mad, and we'd be yelling and arguing and swearing at each other when I was like 13 years old, and my mom just was on the hot seat to try and figure it out. And so my mom's always been sort of easy to talk to.
Yeah, that's nice.
Or someone to go to.
Sure.
My dad's always been just kind of realistic and real, and will give you whatever his straight answer is. He's not going to fluff and buff stuff, and I'm very much get to the point kind of person.
Same thing. You're pretty intense. Yeah, of course. So as things are transitioning for you, it's been 20 years you've been in this career, living this lifestyle, right?
This will be my 27th year.
27th year?
Yeah, the start of my 27th season.
Season? How many years, though?
Yeah, every year is a season.
27, gotcha.
26 full years.
26 full years. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It is a long time.
Now, if you could go back 26 years then and talk to yourself, yourself just getting started in the first go-kart race or getting serious about this, knowing everything you know, what would you say to yourself?
Don't save fuel at the 2005 Daytona or Indy 500. Go for it. No, I wouldn't change anything, because honestly, if I would have won that year, I mean, everything would have changed, and everything. It's the butterfly effect. I believe in it. So I'm so happy where I am today, and everything. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, as in like, you just sit back and things just happen. You do have to have some intention. I think the intention. I've always had good intention, though. I've always known what I've wanted, and so perhaps things would have gotten off track if they would have happened otherwise, so I wouldn't change anything. So, would you give advice in terms of like what to think about or how to act or anything else like that, or to let go of things? It's really all part of being here today. Life is a learning experience. Like there's a great song, and in the song that says like we're all students and we'll all graduate. Like, it's fine. It's your path. It's your journey. I wouldn't change anything. I would just say the only thing I could ever say would just be to remind me from a young age to stay true to myself, to believe in myself, to be confident in myself, to say nice things to myself, right? Because I think that we all can be quite self-critical. So were you not always nice to yourself? Sure. I mean, like, I feel like I'm do typical girl stuff, but probably typical human stuff, where you down yourself for something that you do or say or how you look. And I think that everyone falls victim to that a little bit here and there. So, positive self-talk. Sure. But again, everything would have changed the rest, so I wouldn't change it. Yeah. As the year of open then, what was your intention for wanting to be open? Is there something you want to... Well, so many things have changed, so it's about being open to flowing with what's coming and how it goes and what comes and what goes. So I'm sure there'll be some ebbs and flows as things evolve, and, I dream into every business being a massive success, and like I told my agents, I'm like, guys, I can't be a billionaire as a race car driver, but I can with all these other businesses. So, as they're worrying about what happens next, I'm like, only better things. Sure. So, or at least I have to imagine that so that I can create that reality for myself, because I want to. Of course. So, yeah, I'm excited about them all. So it's the end of the year then. Imagine it's the end of the year. What are 3 or 4 things that, if you could manifest anything to happen, what would those be exactly? New Year's Eve, you're celebrating 2018, and you're reflecting back, and you're saying, I did these 2, 3, 4 things. Like anything you could create or want. Anything, if I had like 2 or 3 things. Yeah, call it 3 things. 3 things. Whether it be personal stuff, business stuff, fitness, whatever, anything. Anything you could manifest, what would you like to create? Since the space is open to create. Yeah, okay. I would first off want to be in a place where I was so content and happy and confident and comfortable as a person. Like so whole. You can only do that yourself, but It's a good space to be in. I would want to, if I had to pick, it's so mean, but I'm going to pick. Well, I mean, if I can have three, I would want to win the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick Indy. I would.
You could take either one. Take them both.
Indy, but I can pick them both.
Yeah.
So I was trying to like dabble in categories.
That's fine.
That's it.
And then give me two more if you have one.
Oh, two more. Yeah. Well, I would want a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
And I would want my wine to sell out. Yeah, it's
how many cases?
Really good. So it's super small production, so it'll only get to about 1,000.
1,000 cases?
Cases.
Gotcha.
So it's about 250 cases. It's 12 bottles per case. So so there's about 250 cases from 2014 to 2015 is bigger, and 2016 is too. And then 17 was small, but we're going to make rosé, and we're making a Sauvignon Blanc as well. So it's a Cabernet. It's a Napa Valley.
Where's the link to get it?
Somniumwine.com.
Somnium wine?
Somnium, like insomnia.
Okay.
Somnium means dream in Latin.
Ooh,
so I went to Napa Valley in 2006 and was doing wine tastings, sitting over this beautiful valley, fog pulling back down into San Francisco, sipping my Sauvignon Blanc, going, I would love to have something like this someday. And then I did.
Amen.
Yeah.
I like it.
I know.
Well, I will get a case and I will donate some to some friends. I'll give them as gifts since I won't drink it myself, but I will support the cause.
Maybe you will. I mean,
give me one little sip.
Okay.
I don't know
That's
really,
I mean, hey, if you've only ever had one other sip, I'm going to call that a pretty big victory.
Here's what I'll do. If I'm with you with your wine, I will have a sip with you.
Okay, sounds
good. So
good.
if you're in LA or from Phoenix, we'll make it happen.
Sounds good.
I like that. So we got selling out of the wine.
Wait, I want to hear you. If you had 3 wishes at the end of 2018, what would you want them to? Which ones would you want to come true?
This is kind of vague, but be in the best health and shape of my life, which is going to be challenging because as a professional athlete, I trained a lot. So I think it's being super smart with what I'm eating. Nutrition is the key.
Always.
Right? Just in 2 weeks, I already feel so much leaner from just being so mindful and intentional of every meal. But I also love like pizza and ice cream and gelato and like, oh my goodness, I could just go on forever. But when I set my mind to it, I'm so disciplined like that I don't miss those things. It's when I'm like loosey-goosey.
Well, food is medicine, and it also is how you feel. So if you stop connecting food with a reward or punishment or like a luxury, like you can still eat sweets, but like you can do it in a different way, and your palate will change to the point where you appreciate something that's less sweet or a smaller portion or something that's not your typical fluffy big cake. I mean, you can get used to those things. But you do have to get used to them to some degree. But that's what that's my hopeful takeaway from the book for people when they do it. You're going to lose weight, you're going to feel better, it's just going to happen. But what I want them to do is start to view food as medicine and fitness as fun. Like they can be those things. And if you do those things with the mindset of just wanting to be the best version of you and doing them because you feel good and it gives you confidence, then you're going to keep doing them because you don't want to not feel like that. But if all your only goal is to lose weight, then what are you going to do when you're done?
Right.
So, Whole30 is about, a whole new shifting mindset. It's about starting to view food in a different way. That's why you don't recreate treats, right? That's why you can't have pancakes. I mean, in my book I do, but
pancakes.
they're like eggs, pumpkin, raw pumpkin, and things like that. But so it does have some of those things, but it sort of keeps your mind attached to pancakes or waffles, right?
Waffles are amazing.
So you can have them in a healthy way. So they are really good. I know,
like waffles too? Yeah.
I love waffles.
So
I make waffles all the time.
Oh my gosh!
I have a simple waffle recipe in here, and so when you're done with Whole30, you can kind of.
I'll get it.
But it's about the mindset, right? So it's just
mindset.
stopping to go like, oh God, I just want cake right now, or like I want pizza.
Right. Well,
it's like that. You're gonna feel like crap, and then that's horrible. Like there's nothing worse than feeling like Thanksgiving dinner when you eat. The only problem with starting to eat this way, which I'm sure you've done many times. I mean, if you're doing Whole30, I'm sure it's not your first time dabbling in the paleo world or whatever.
Times,
you do feel bad when you eat off of it. You feel really bad. You feel really bad.
And then you need more of the bad foods to feel a little bit better for a little bit.
Do you? No, I'm like grabbing lemon water and turmeric and like all the stuff. I'm like, I need I don't know what kind of, do I need probiotics? Do I not need probiotics? Like, I'm like, Yeah.
Like I'll have one cupcake and a piece of pizza, and then I'll have a box of cupcakes and the whole pizza because I'm just like, well, I need to feel a little bit better about how guilty I feel.
Stop it.
I'm horrible. That's why I'm like an all-in type of person. It's like I can't have any.
You have somewhat of an addictive personality.
I just feel like I need to have complete structure in my life in order to be like disciplined structure, and then I can be flexible in my creativity, if that makes sense.
I think you're attached to the outcome more than you are the process.
Maybe, but I love the process that I'm in now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually love it because I've trained my mind to not desire other things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
I'm not like aching. I'm not sore.
God, you live in LA, dude. I lived in North Carolina. Do you know how hard that was? I had to grow my own garden.
There's like Bojangles.
I mean, you have every option under the sun in LA.
Trust me. But there's also like unhealthy sweet options that are also like they
and
make it seem healthy.
Restaurants are in the business of making things taste so good. So even if you go to a restaurant that has healthy food, it's still not home cooked, which I'm always going to make it more healthy at home and still taste as good.
Yeah, exactly. I've got so many more things I want to ask you about. This has been fascinating, but I want to try to wrap it up here soon.
Well, we can just do it again.
We can do it again because I feel like I've just started scratching the surface with you, and I think there's so much more underneath that I want to unpack.
Maybe
and Dan was right about you. He was like, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm fascinated by this conversation, so I want to do more of this.
Well, maybe we'll just sometime we'll all get together and we'll have some wine and then work out and wine, and we'll come up with all new directions and concepts for podcasts, and we'll just do a series.
Everything. That's it. I'm in. Okay. But I do have a few questions still.
Okay.
A few questions I want to wrap it up with.
Okay.
What's the question that you wish more people would ask you, but they never ask?
Yeah, I think that being in the position, I mean, I have a lot of good friends and good family, and I'm very blessed. But I think that the your pure state is sometimes ignored. Like people are like, hey, how you doing? You okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. How are you supposed to answer that? So I think that the deep connection that someone wants to have, like, are you okay? Like, how are you? Like, tell me about it. How do you feel? And like talk through something, like a deeper understanding for how somebody's really doing. I think that people miss that. I think that not a lot of people do it, and they just are more worried about themselves, and they don't connect with people or want to or care because they're preoccupied. And
do you feel like people don't ask you about those things, or they never?
I think that most people in general skim over that, you know, like, I mean, and I don't even think it's necessarily like a question we should answer here, but it's like from your true friends and family, that's your therapy. It can be.
Yeah. Okay, this is a question I ask at the end. It's called the three truths.
Well, since my word of the year was truth, I'm fresh.
Exactly, you should be right on this.
All right.
Imagine this being the final day for you many years from now.
Okay.
You're 100 and something.
Oh, wow. Thank God.
You last as long as you want to live.
Okay.
Okay? Maybe there's
good question. How long do I want to live?
Exactly. Whenever you want it to be the last day, it's the last day.
Okay.
You've achieved everything.
Okay.
Everything you set your mind to has happened. Businesses, billions of dollars, products, whatever it is. Cooking show, all that stuff. But for whatever reason, all the information you put out there is erased. So the books you put out there, maybe video, cooking shows, videos are gone, recipes, everything's gone. All the videos of you racing, gone. No one has access to, right? It's a hypothetical.
Yeah. Getting into the mindset.
But then there's a piece of paper and a pen, and you got to write down 3 things you know to be true about all of your experiences in life. The 3 biggest lessons or truths. That this is the only thing that people would have to be remembered by you. What would you write down as your 3 truths?
Well, the first one would be about me. Would they be about me? Like
kind of like the lessons
about me?
Yeah, truths
or lessons I'd want to put out,
share out
there.
Here's
like,
what I believe.
Here's what I hope that. Here's what I want you to take away to lead your life.
Yes.
One would be to have an attitude of gratitude. I think that's just like a cool, catchy, great, easy way to be like yes, to be grateful, because through that comes positivity, You're nicer to people. You're nicer to yourself. So having an attitude of gratitude, I think, is a very important one. I would say that, you know, find yourself, regardless of what anyone thinks you should be. Take a walk in the woods until you find yourself. There you go. Take a walk in the woods until you find yourself. Yeah, I think that if you just love hard, no matter what love anything or anybody hard, no matter how they treat you. You can never I don't think you can ever feel bad about loving something too much or someone too much. Doesn't mean they don't disappoint you, but it was what you had, you know? You give your all in, right? Go all in and you have no regrets.
That's it.
You know, you've done everything you can. So whether it's your job or whether it's someone or whether it's everything, and that tends to be more me, everything, you know, you got to walk away without any regrets. So you're like, man, I half-assed that. Shoot, should have tried harder.
Yeah.
I don't live like that.
Yeah, those are good truths.
Okay.
I like those. Those are good.
All right, good.
I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Danica, for your realness. I think you are who you are, and you're unapologetically you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you represent a sense of truth.
Thanks. Good.
Because you're constantly putting yourself out there on a big stage with a lot of criticism or potential criticism, and yet you're doing it with grace and with a level of confidence and poise that I don't think many people could do, especially a 5'0", you know, female in a.
The little dogs bark louder,
they
so
do bark very loud. But you've overcome so much over the last 26 years that I think would be very hard for a lot of people to overcome year after year after year, and still take care of your health and still be there for your friends and family, and still be kind to people in the media or to other people. You've constantly shown up. And
that's sweet. I heard from a friend of mine just the other day. She was texting me about something, and she was like, you're just a very loyal person. Like, she's someone that I touch base with very randomly, but I've known her since high school, and it was like really nice to hear that, because I think that especially in the world of fame and, you know, whatever you want, money and all these different things, like it's possible to get off track, which I don't understand, but it is, and I'm so grateful when I do get that reassurance every now and again from someone that sort of reminds me, like, you know, you're the same girl in high school. I'm like, but better? Like, am I grown a little? Because I'm like, I also love when I look on Instagram and it's like the whole, like, someone says, you've changed, and the reply is, thanks for noticing, because, like, I hope so.
Right.
But in a better way.
Grown.
Yeah, grown. Changed, grown,
Grown.
But in a
improved.
Expanded.
Well, congrats on everything.
Thank you.
Your book, pretty intense. Make sure you guys check this out. I went through page by page, actually, before you came here. I went through everything. Didn't read 100% of it, but I went through every page, and it's very powerful. So make sure you guys get this book. Pretty intense.
I can't wait to get your book. I remember, not that long ago, I remember seeing that and I'd be like, that is such a great message right now. I feel like the femininity in everyone, even women, I find myself trying to get more into that too, because I'm so dominant and I've had such that role in life that, you know, even because we all have masculine and feminine in us, so it's even women get more into the masculine and need to get more into their feminine. And so it's a great message for now, because we've been in such a doing phase of culture of doing, and you know, it's time to feel. And I think when we start feeling, then we'll start to have more compassion and come together a little bit more. So I think it's a great timing on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think less doing, more being. Human beings. So make sure you guys go get the book. You can get it out. It's out right now. Pretty intense. Online, your website, social media at Danica Patrick, everywhere, right?
Yeah, Danica Patrick, all
the places, DanicaPatrick.com, all that stuff, right? Final question for you then is, what's your definition of greatness?
Contentment. I mean, it's just having no regrets. Everybody's greatness is different. That's why the record books change all the time. So it's about being content with your career, because then you know you did everything you could, and that is your great, and everyone's is different.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Love it.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Yes.
We'll figure out our next podcast soon.
Absolutely.